If we trace back to Old Testament, you'll see that the first mention of the word grace started in Genesis, where it says, "And Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord." That is the first mention of the word. So you cannot say that grace started in the New Testament through Yeshua. Grace has always been from the Old Testament. Even in the, and also when you're talking about the subject matter, grace, we're looking at the word itself. There are ways to interpret the word grace. And it's not only when it is written in text in the scriptures, grace, that it's applied, that grace was applied here. Even in the Garden of Eden, grace was applied. Because the law that was stated, given to Adam and Eve, was the day you eat of this fruit, the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the day you eat of it, that day surely you shall die. But yet when they ate of it, they did not die, but they died in, like I say, in there was the godly aspect that they had to occupy on earth here. That aspect died, but them physically did not die. So God still gave a grace. God did some little thing and gave them some judgment and cast them out of the garden. So grace itself did not start from the New Testament. That is one thing that we must always emphasize whenever we have such encounters with people. You let them know that the word grace itself was mentioned about 6 or 7 times in the Old Testament, starting from Genesis chapter 6, where it says that Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord. So I don't understand.
Okay. Let me ask, what is the era of grace? What does it mean? Let me be sure I understand. When I say when the era of grace, what does that mean? Now, what does that mean? Era of grace means what?
That we are no longer condemned.
Right.
That Yeshua died to set us free from the sin, that we are no longer in the law of sin. We are free from sin. Like we can do anything, we can commit sin and we can ask for forgiveness.
Okay, that's forgive. Okay, now cheap forgiveness. Now, okay, now grace to them means cheap forgiveness. Okay, now, because when we speak about, for example, I put a post. I said, from Manasseh's situation, who believes that God can afflict? Do you believe God can afflict a person? Afflict people? Grace does not believe in that God can punish. Grace only sees a loving God. What grace focuses on is a loving God, a loving Father. But you and I know what happens if you're a loving father and you don't discipline. A lot of time you must have spanked hair out of him to the point where you want to kill him. I used to be a loving father doing it.
Yes.
So for Christianity, grace is the remover of punishment because you're a loving father. So there is no punishment. And even if you err, grace says the error is overlooked by God and never punished. And this is their theology of grace, but it's not a biblical theology of grace. The clear perspective of God can only be understood in covenant lenses. And that's what I said earlier on, that you cannot have a clear perspective of Jehovah without a covenant lens. If not, you are a fornicator or adulterer. Are you hearing me, sirs? You cannot. Only through covenant lenses does God relate to people. Because when God was dealing with Israel, punishing them, he didn't touch the other nations because they were not his people. So he was dealing with his own people. When you come 19, so you're not obligated to my own children. You're obligated to him, your daughter. They are yours. So you deal with your children. So as a father, you cannot call punishment hatred, like what these people want us to believe it to be. So this is where the grace teaching goes too far off the word of God. And secondly, we are no longer in Old Testament era. They will tell you. What is the Old Testament era in the first place? Is the Old Testament era not the era of grace? Is God not redeeming Manasseh? Who is not? Is he not redeeming David? He is redeeming Israel. Is that not grace? So they don't see that. They only see what the Pharisees have said. So they read Old Testament from a Pharisee perspective, because why they are working in the New Testament alone. So they don't see grace in God, who is merciful, delivering. See what he did for Abraham. See how he brought Israel out of Egypt. He kept feeding people. He kept feeding Israel. He gave them clothing, shelter, blessings. Yet in the desert, they kept calling him names. They kept abusing God. Yet he will send them manna, send them meat, send them water. Is that not grace? So what other Old Testament, how does the Old Testament era contradict the New Testament? So what we are dealing here with that the law itself, they have made us see law as evil because of what Prophet Blessed read to us, John 1:16. He said the law came by Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So they say Jesus and Moses as two different people, that Yeshua is opposing Moses, undermining Moses. No, Yeshua is a continuation of. So the law came by Moses. The continuation of that, or the expression of that, is what we see in Yeshua. So it's not saying the law came by Moses. Now, grace and truth, no more law.
I see there was no truth ever since. There was no grace ever since.
So even law and truth is the law. Even grace and truth is the law.
That's what it's in Matthew 5:5. Then I do not argue with them.
You say what?
That is what we are saying here is Matthew 5:5. When he said that I think it should be the answer. Because he says Matthew 5:5.
Matthew 5:5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Matthew 5:17.
Matthew 5:17. Okay, yeah, that is it. See?
Think not, because this is the thing this way.
Prophets. I am not come
To destroy.
Yes, to complete it. Now, if you have your facts, you can argue them and run them out of town. Sorry. I was in when I was in a hospital. I entered that evening to a local restaurant, and I saw this man, local champion, talking to this woman, this woman selling food about the new CBN policy. But he was talking as if he knew. I said, me, I just sat there. I said, Mr. Man, I said, all you're saying is a theory and it's business. He looks. So he saw a local champion. He was describing the economy to the woman. The woman was saying, not true. And nothing he was saying was the truth. When I finished with him, the man ran away. I said, Madam, don't bring this man to your shop again. Local champions find local places. They will tell you the market too. Doesn't know what we're talking about. And that's what we do sometimes. If you become solid and they bring the argument, you will run them out. You will run them out. So don't be silent and don't avoid. Paul knew when argument was required. Paul knew when power was required. And that's where we get to the takeaway question home. So I'll give you the first apology. So here your assignments. Since you brought that word up, you're gonna study the word apologist. Apologist. Sister Charity, homiletics. 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 Thank you. Apologist. So the idea of apologies has always been there. So you must know who is a messianic apologist. Sister Hope, hermeneutics. Hermeneutics. So how is homiletic? Yours is hermeneutics. APOLOGIST. Hermeneutics. So these terms are what you'll be speaking on next Sunday. Apologies, Brother Chikomeka. Homiletics, Sister Charity. Hermeneutics, Sister Aurora. SCGCs, Brother Boniface. SCGCs, Brother Boniface. ES, as in S, not the S for super. S, X. EGESIS. For Chris.
EXE.
Yes, GE. Then the S is S as in Sunday. SIS, yeah. Bro, Chris, I see justice. Sorry for that.
Yes.
Yes, what are the terms? So you're gonna give us the meaning of the terms.
Not general.
Don't just define term here. Hermeneutics means go to school and come back. Tell the term, describe it. You have to just give us at least a one page
Broad
understanding of the word, the term, what it is. So it's a one page, not just a one line, like not definition. ICGCs. I E. They say so that I E S E SIS. Yeah, I. No, I just got it. IE. There are different parts. How these guys put it here. Come in. IE. Sorry. EI. Cancel the one. EISEGESIS. Yeah. SGS. Okay. Who else is remaining? One. Who's Joel? Okay, yeah. So Brother Joel is dealing with hermeneutics. Okay, Sister Sarah, help us research on lexicon.
Lexicon. LEXICON.
Joel, concordance. Concordance, Bible concordance. Bible concordance. Sister Sarah, Bible lexicon. We were blessed to give us some biblical interpolation.
Biblical
Interpolation. Careful. Bible interpolation. Any question? Is it too difficult? So it's also good to copy their own questions. Also do a broader study. Any question? So you show us where interpolations, where they appear in scriptures, where we see interpolations. Not just to give us a meaning, but to show us where we find interpolations.
Same to other people.
Hmm?
You show us references.
Yes, they'll give us. So it's not just a shallow walk. So it's a serious walk. So you ICGCs, just take your time and then study them and research them. So it really help you. To help you. So we'll be ending today with biblical interpretation.
Right.
So which goes in line with methods of biblical interpretation. Methods of biblical interpretation. And I will continue from there tomorrow. So by so doing, we have completed this book 1. So with biblical interpretation, we are completing workbook 1. So I don't want to define that interpretation, that thing, because that will give Sister Deborah an expo. So I will not do that. I'll just play around this chapter, so she will know what we're talking about. Why is biblical interpretation important, Brother Chris? Why is correct biblical interpretation? Why is it so important?
Important because I like or it make us to know more about the scripture.
So it's important because it helps us know the scriptures. Who else can try? Can you try? Why is biblical interpretation so important? Correct interpretation to the Bible. Why is it so important?
To know more, to get more broad about Bible. To know more about the
To
Bible.
broaden also the scriptures. Beautiful.
Give us more understanding, proper understanding of the word of God.
She said it gives a proper understanding. Correct biblical interpretation gives understanding to the word of God. Powerful. See, it helps us escape Pharisaic and Christian indoctrination.
Clear understanding, clear knowledge of the biblical interpretation. Sharpens our, in fact, it helps us in our relationship, our day-to-day relationship.
Amen. Yeah, it does, because once you have right interpretation, how you praise, it's impacted, how you walk with God is shaping. That's a very strong one. That's a very strong one. Sister Sarah, what does it do for us? Yeah, apply yourself. Yeah, thank you. It does. So in conclusion, while we prepare to go home and do the assignment, I said somewhere, interpretation is a key to safety. Biblical or correct biblical interpretation is the key to safety. The Bible is like a field that has mines, like a bomb. So you are careful to where to step on, because if you step on the wrong place, it will explode. So you need correct biblical interpretation to escape or to walk in safety. So it's a key to safety. To safety. And you know how much we need safety in this day and time. Because religion can destroy. can destroy. The wrong belief can destroy. The wrong understanding can destroy. Like what Boniface mentioned. The wrong interpretation will impact on your calling. Like I said, I'm called to be a prayer warrior. How can you be a prayer warrior once your interpretation of biblical prayer is not in place? So we have callings, but wrong interpretation. Some of you can be called, maybe you're called to, you see visions, you dream dreams, but how about interpretation? I'm called to preach, I'm a teacher. You can be a teacher, but what is your interpretation as a teacher? The interpretation you come out with in a text is so crucial. So interpretation is more important than a calling. That's a strong one, but interpretation is more stronger than a calling. Because if you're called to teach and you are a wrong teacher, you are destroying people. A prayer warrior. I know I told the story of how I was seeking deliverance many years ago. I was really need for deliverance. I went to Mountain of Fire. They brought this prayer booklet, a piece of. They put different deliverance, head deliverance, stomach deliverance. So the demon in your head, there's one in your stomach. So the guy would tell us to just jump up and shake our head. But that's not all, though. It was with fasting. So when I shake my head, I was not seeing stars. Nobody told me to when I just pack my bag like this. I wrapped my leg. I left. Let the demon stay. Let the demon stay. Interpretation. These guys. So these are the things we're talking about. The wrong interpretation will create a wrong way of doing things. I don't know if it works because I didn't stay to confirm if it works, but it was scary because I still wonder how people will shake their head the way they did. My brother, this is not kinda. This one is not biblical. This is fasting without food and water. And you're jumping air. It's not as if you are jumping up and jump up. How are you? You know this kind of stars. This kind of stars this star that you hit when somebody hit your head. Have you bumped your head on an iron? This kind of star that just moving, flashing. So these are the things we're talking about. Even in prayer ministry, you can now develop a method because of your conclusion in interpretation. And since people don't care about interpretation, they care about results. They care about, okay, at least afterwards I was healed. Afterwards I was delivered. Because a lot of time, and it's so sad that God will bypass wrong interpretation to see heal people. God will still allow the rock bring forth water, despite the fact that Moses strikes the rock. So God will still find a way to bypass those wrong interpretation to still do what he wants to do. And so for so long, people get away with wrong interpretation. Sort of deal with that God would have done more if our interpretation was, God could have done more if our interpretation was correct. So interpreting the Bible is so important. But the trap we face is that many interpret the Bible from a denominational perspective. So can there be a biblical interpretation without a perspective, denominationally or background based?
Without a perspective,
Yes.
That means it will have to be rooted in the literal meaning, without adding any extra meaning or looking at it through the lens of another person's view, or maybe a church view or a sect view. We're looking at it straightly through the
literal meaning. So how can you get a literal meaning without knowing the culture, the context, the language, the people? So now I give him a book to read now, to interpret. Now he has no idea of the culture, the language, the custom, or the purpose. So what interpretation will he come out with? That's the thing we did with women must not wear the things that pertain to a man. How do you interpret that outside the audience, the time of writing, purpose of even the purpose? For example, zizit. Now, I'm surprised that many people don't even know what it is. They look at it strangely. You just see me and they look at, what is this? Even apostles, bishops, and GOs. They've not even seen it before. Somebody also said, well, I saw this when I was in Jerusalem. Right, so say, why are you Jewish? How can I be Jewish when this is in scriptures, but you've not seen it? Ask your question. This is in scriptures, but interpretation will not allow us to see it or use it. Women wear it, men wear it. You can adopt this with your clothing. Like I told him, I said, very soon I'm working on removing all Western clothing. I remove all my Western clothing. I haven't mentioned the same thing last Sunday. Jeans is American. Your dressing is American. It's American. I think we should come to a point as Hebrew people to understand how to accustom ourselves as biblical people and remove less of this Western attires and be more biblical in our dressing.